There comes a moment in every man's life when he realizes that the rules he was taught about love attraction and relationships were never written to make him strong. They were written to keep him dependent. You've been told to chase, to please, to bend, to prove your worth through attention, affection, and endless sacrifice. But deep down, you've felt the sting. Her respect fading. Her interest dying, her desire vanishing the more you gave. And that truth cuts deeper than rejection itself. But what if I told you that the real power doesn't lie in doing more, but in doing less? That attraction isn't won by desperate effort, but by mastering yourself, your purpose, your presence, your standards. When you stop orbiting her moods and start anchoring yourself in discipline, you shift everything. Suddenly, you are no longer the one waiting, hoping, explaining. You become the man she feels drawn to without knowing why. This video is not about tricks or games. It's about philosophy. Stoic wisdom applied to modern relationships. And if you stay with me until the end, you'll understand why detachment, purpose, and unshakable standards make you unforgettable. And before we begin, if this is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Because what we're about to uncover might just change the way you see yourself and the way women see you forever. 1. Detachment equals power. Let me tell you something most men never realize until it's too late. Real strength is not about flexing your muscles, raising your voice, or showing the world how tough you are. It's about control. Not control over her, but control over yourself. Detachment is not coldness. It doesn't mean you stop caring, or that you build walls so high no one can reach you. Detachment means you choose who gets access to your emotions. It means her mood swings don't dictate your day. It means her silence doesn't make you panic, and her attention doesn't make you forget who you are. A man who masters detachment is magnetic because most men can't do it. Most men chase. They over-explain. They try to fix every little problem she throws their way, because deep down, they're afraid of losing her. And women can smell that fear. They don't even need to analyze it. They just feel it. And when she feels it, attraction dies. Think about it this way. If every time she pulls back, you rush forward, you've already given her the script. She knows exactly how to control you. She knows that one cold text, one little silence, one withdrawal of attention, and suddenly, you're running, begging, proving, overcompensating. That is not strength. That is dependency. And dependency kills desire. But when you're detached, everything changes. When she tries to test you, you don't react. You respond. When she disappears for a day, you don't spiral into insecurity. You stay focused on your purpose. When she throws emotion at you, you don't match her storm with more chaos. You remain calm, steady, like a mountain, unmoved by the wind. That's when she starts to look at you differently, because now she knows you cannot be bent. You cannot be shaken. You cannot be manipulated by moods or games. And let me tell you, that's rare. And whatever is rare is valuable. The Stoics taught this thousands of years ago. Epictetus said, "You can chain my body, but you cannot touch my mind." What he meant was simple freedom begins inside. If your emotions belong to everyone else, then you're a slave, no matter how strong you look. But when your emotions belong to you, you become untouchable. And here's the paradox. The more detached you become, the more she invests. Not because you're ignoring her to play games, but because your energy says, I am not owned by your reactions. That energy is intoxicating. She starts to wonder about you. She starts to question herself. She starts to chase not out of fear, but out of respect. So don't confuse detachment with cruelty. You can love deeply. You can care genuinely. You can give without fear. But the difference is this: you are no longer dependent on her response. Her approval doesn't fuel you. Her rejection doesn't break you. Your peace remains your own. That, my friends, is real power. And once you taste it, you'll never give it up again. Because you'll see clearly, a man who can control himself is a man who cannot be controlled by anyone else. 2. Attention is her currency. Let me tell you something men rarely understand. Attention is not free. Every second of it costs you something. Every glance, every text, every late-night reply, those are pieces of your energy. And energy is the most valuable thing you own. But here's the problem. Most men give it away like it's endless. They flood her with messages. They double text when she doesn't reply. They comment under every photo thinking they're showing love. But what they're really showing is that their attention has no value. And when something has no value, it becomes invisible. For a woman, attention is currency. It's status. It's oxygen. She doesn't even need to like you to want it. She just needs to know you're still orbiting her world, still giving energy, still proving without words that she matters more than you do. And the more freely you give it, the less she has to earn it. And what is abundant quickly becomes cheap. Think about it this way. When she posts a picture and you rush to comment, she doesn't feel closer to you. She feels confirmed. She feels powerful. Because in her mind, your energy is still hers to collect anytime she wants. But here's where things shift. When your attention becomes scarce, it transforms. When you stop handing it out freely, when you give it only to people and situations that deserve it, it becomes magnetic. Because scarcity creates value. When she realizes she no longer gets instant responses, she wonders what you're doing. When you don't watch every story, she wonders who has your focus. When you're not available every second, she realizes your time is expensive and she better earn it. This is not about playing games. It's not about pretending you're busy or ignoring her to hurt her. It's about understanding that your attention is not cheap fuel for someone else's ego. It is sacred. And when you treat it as sacred, she feels it. She respects it. She invests more because suddenly your energy has weight. The Stoics would say, value is determined by rarity. And in today's world, where men throw out attention like candy, a man who withholds it calmly, not bitterly, is a rarity. And rarity, my friend, is irresistible. So let me make this simple audit your attention. Before you text, ask yourself, has she earned this? Before you pour energy into someone, ask, what do I gain from this? Because the truth is, if she hasn't proven her respect, if she hasn't invested in you, then your attention is not a gift. It's a loss. And here's the paradox. When you stop chasing with attention, she starts chasing yours. When you no longer give it away freely, she leans in, she tests, she invests because now she feels she has to. And if she doesn't, then you win anyway. Because you've kept your energy, your peace, and your focus where it belongs on your mission, your growth, your life. Attention is her currency. Spend it wisely, and she'll value it like gold. Spend it carelessly, and it becomes dust. 3. You are the prize, not her. Let me remind you of a truth most men forget. You are the prize, not her. But society has twisted this. From the time you were young, you were told, prove yourself, win her over, show her you're worthy. And like a loyal soldier, you gave everything, your time, your money, your attention, just hoping she'd choose you. But here's the reality: that very mindset is why she didn't. When you pedestalize her, when you act as though her beauty alone makes her the reward you've already surrendered, you've told her without words, my worth depends on you. And no woman on earth can respect a man who treats her as his oxygen. You see a woman's beauty, her charm, her presence. That's not the prize. That's the bait. The real prize is discipline, mission, standards. A man who knows where he's going, who carries himself with purpose, who doesn't bend for approval. That man is rare. That man is unforgettable. That man is the prize. And here's the paradox. The moment you realize this truth, the game changes. Suddenly, you stop auditioning for her attention. You stop running around trying to prove yourself. You stop begging to be noticed. Instead, you start evaluating her. You ask yourself, does she add peace to my life? Does she support my vision? Does she bring respect, softness, loyalty? Because if she doesn't, then her looks mean nothing. And this is where most men stumble. They think their worth is in money, status, or possessions. But a woman doesn't truly bond to those things. What she bonds to is the man who cannot be shaken, the man who can walk away with calm certainty, the man who knows I am the prize, and only those who meet my standards are welcome here. Think of a king on his throne. Does he beg peasants to stay in his court? Does he chase after those who walk away? Of course not. He sits in his strength, and those who recognize his value come forward willingly. That is the frame you must hold. Now, this doesn't mean arrogance. This doesn't mean you treat women poorly or coldly. It means you recognize your value and you don't discount it. You don't give your energy away like it's cheap. You don't bend your standards for temporary beauty. Because when a woman feels she must earn her place in your world, when she feels your time and your energy are not guaranteed, she respects you more deeply than words can describe. She doesn't see you as an option. She sees you as the prize. And when she sees you that way, everything. So remember this. Your worth was never meant to be measured by her reaction. Your mission, your discipline, your standards. That's what makes you the reward. And if she wants to stand beside you, she must bring more than beauty. She must bring respect, peace, and devotion. You are the prize, my friend. Never forget it. 4. Neediness. Repels. There is one signal, one invisible scent that destroys desire faster than anything else: neediness. The moment she feels that you need her more than she needs you, something inside her shifts. Respect evaporates. Attraction dies. And no matter how much effort you pour in afterward, you can't get that respect back. Neediness isn't just about what you do. It's about what you radiate. It's in your eyes when you look at her like she's oxygen. It's in your words when you agree too quickly, when you try too hard to please. It's in your actions when you drop everything at her command, when your mood rises and falls based on her approval. That, my friend, is the death of masculinity. Because here's the truth. Women are not cruel for rejecting needy men. They are wired to. Their biology is designed to pull away from dependence and move towards strength. When you show her that her validation is your lifeline, she instinctively knows she can't trust you to lead. She knows your frame is weak, and no woman feels safe in the arms of a man who collapses under pressure. Think about it. Would you trust a captain who panics in the middle of a storm? Would you respect a leader whose emotions depend on the crowd's applause? Of course not. And in the same way, no woman respects a man whose entire identity rests on her approval. Neediness is not romance. It's not love. It's desperation disguised as devotion. And the harder you try to convince her of your worth, with gifts, texts, or endless availability, the more you tell her that you don't believe in your own value. You're begging her to confirm what you should already know, that you are enough. A man with frame, a man of Stoic discipline, doesn't beg for attention. He doesn't crumble when she pulls away. He doesn't chase after every silence. Instead, he remains still. He remains grounded. He remembers that his mission, his standards, his life do not orbit her moods. And that stillness, that calm detachment, is what draws her closer. Paradoxically, the less you need her, the more she wants to be near you. Not because you're playing games, but because you show her that you are whole without her. That your value does not rise and fall based on her response. And when she feels that strength, when she feels that your world is steady, even without her, she leans in. So hear me clearly. Dependence repels, discipline attracts. A man tied to her approval will always lose her respect. But a man who walks in his own frame, who can love her without needing her, who can give without fear of loss, that man becomes unforgettable. Don't be the one chasing. Be the one she works to keep. 5. Her tests are loyalty checks. Every man must learn this. A woman will test you. Not because she hates you. Not because she wants to see you fail, but because deep inside she needs to know if you can be trusted. These tests rarely come with warning labels. They don't look like exams written on paper. They show up in her words, in her tone, in her silence. They appear when she pulls back just to see if you'll chase. When she says something sharp, not to wound you, but to see if you'll snap. When she withdraws her affection not because she has stopped caring, but to measure your strength. Most men fail because they take these tests literally. They argue. They explain. They beg to be understood. They try to prove themselves with logic and words. But a woman isn't testing what you say. She's testing who you are. Understand this clearly. Women test your frame. They test your ability to stay calm when the storm rolls in. They test whether you can lead when emotions run high. Because if you lose your center the moment she applies pressure, then she knows she cannot rely on you when life brings real chaos. Think of it like this. A captain isn't proven on calm seas. He's proven when the waves rise, when the wind roars, when the crew panics. And in that moment, everyone looks to see if the captain stays steady. If he does, they trust him with their lives. If he crumbles, they know they're in danger. It's the same in relationships. She doesn't feel safe if your emotions collapse every time hers fluctuate. Passing her tests doesn't require grand speeches. It requires composure. It requires a calm silence instead of a heated reaction. It requires holding your pace when she tries to rush you, standing your ground when she pulls you off balance, keeping your mission first, even when she demands you abandon it. And here's the paradox. The more you stay unmoved, the more she respects you. The moment she sees that her storm cannot shake your foundation, she begins to lean in, not out. Her trust grows because now she knows you can carry both yourself and her when life gets heavy. Fail, however, and the opposite happens. If you become emotional every time she pushes a button, if you collapse into anger, begging, or desperation, she learns something else, that she is stronger than you. And once she feels that attraction begins to die. So the next time she tests you, when she withdraws, when she criticizes, when she creates friction, remember this truth. It is not about the surface. It is not about what she said. It is about whether you can remain still, composed, and unshaken under pressure. Because real loyalty isn't proven in comfort. It's proven in chaos. And if you can remain steady, if you can keep your emotions in your own control, then you pass the test every man must face. That is when she stops doubting. That is when she respects you. That is when she knows this man cannot be moved. 6. Purpose over pleasure. One of the greatest traps a man can fall into is sacrificing his mission for temporary pleasure. And it happens quietly, almost without notice. A man meets a woman, feels desire, and suddenly his goals, his vision, his direction in life begin to take second place. His workouts get skipped. His work loses focus. His ambition starts to fade. All because he confuses affection with fulfillment. The Stoics warned us about this very danger. They taught that pleasure is fleeting, while purpose is eternal. When you live for the highs of passion, for the warmth of comfort, for the approval of someone else, you are no longer in command of yourself. You've become a passenger in your own life, and nothing destroys respect faster than a man who abandons himself for the sake of being wanted. A woman may enjoy the attention in the beginning. She may even encourage it. But deep down, she is always watching, asking herself, is this man guided by something greater than me? Or does his whole world orbit around me? And if the answer is the latter, attraction fades. Because a man without direction cannot lead, and a man who cannot lead cannot hold her trust. Think about it. Have you ever noticed that the men women chase the hardest are the ones who remain deeply committed to their work, their vision, their calling? It's not because these men are cold. It's because they are grounded. They are not pulled off course by affection. They do not crumble when attention is withheld. They keep moving towards something larger than themselves, and that makes them magnetic. The mission is not optional. It is oxygen. Without it, you suffocate. Without it, you collapse into neediness, dependency, and distraction. But when your purpose is alive, everything else falls into place. Your energy shifts. Your presence changes. Your eyes carry a different weight because they are fixed on something that cannot be taken from you. This doesn't mean you cannot love or give or share your life with a woman, but it does mean that love must never replace purpose. She should walk beside you, not in front of you. She should be a companion on the road, not the road itself. Because if she becomes the mission, you lose the very thing that made her desire you in the first place: your strength, your clarity, your direction. So remember, this pleasure will tempt you to pause, to slow down, to compromise. But purpose demands that you keep going, even when it costs you comfort. And paradoxically, the more you stay true to your mission, the more women are drawn to you. Because deep inside, they respect the man who cannot be bought by affection, who cannot be bent by moods, who cannot be broken by loneliness. A Stoic man does not reject love. He simply knows its place. He gives affection freely, but he never sacrifices his destiny to keep it. Because his life, his growth, his mission, these are sacred. And when a man lives this way, he becomes unshakable. That, my friends, is what makes him truly irresistible. 7. Women want what they can't have. Let me share a truth most men never want to hear. Women are not drawn to what is easy, predictable, or endlessly available. Desire does not grow in comfort. Desire is born in mystery and scarcity, and in the quiet possibility of loss. You've probably seen it yourself. The moment you became too available, texting back, instantly dropping everything for her call. Rearranging your schedule to meet her needs. Something in her eyes changed. The spark dimmed. Her curiosity faded. And suddenly, the woman who once seemed excited to hear from you is now distracted, distant, or worse, uninterested. Why? Because she no longer has to reach for you. She already has you. And what is already won rarely excites her. The Stoics understood this dynamic in a different form. They taught that abundance cheapens value, while rarity intensifies it. Think about gold. Why does it hold such power? Not because it is shiny, but because it is scarce. Your attention, your presence, your energy. These are the gold of your life. When you give them away too freely, they lose their weight. When you guard them, when you make them rare, their value rises. A woman wants the man she cannot fully possess, not because she wants to play games, but because her instincts are wired to desire strength, challenge, and the unknown. Mystery is intoxicating to her. The space between your messages, the pause before your reply, the unpredictability of your schedule. These things make her lean in, wondering, what's on his mind? Where is his focus? Am I still his priority? That uncertainty is not cruelty. It is attraction. But here's the mistake most men make. They try to reassure her constantly. They over-explain, over-give, and overshare, thinking that if they just prove their devotion, she will stay. Instead, she grows bored. She doesn't want every chapter of your book handed to her on the first date. She wants to turn the pages herself slowly with anticipation. So how do you embody this truth without playing childish games? The answer is simple. Build a life so full, so meaningful, that you do not have the time or the need to be constantly available. Be busy with your mission. Be immersed in your growth. Let her feel that your attention is a gift, not a guarantee. When she sees that she must earn your time, when she senses that you have options, when she feels that you will not collapse without her, she begins to invest. She begins to chase. This doesn't mean you should be cold or manipulative. It means you should value yourself enough to remain unpredictable, to keep some distance to protect the mystery that fuels attraction. Because a woman does not stay awake at night thinking of the man who sent 10 good morning texts. She stays awake wondering why the man she admires hasn't called yet, what he's doing, who he's becoming. Scarcity creates desire. Predictability kills it. If you want to remain magnetic, stop giving yourself away so cheaply. Become a man. She cannot fully hold a man whose purpose and presence are too great to be caged. Because in that distance, in that rarity, in that quiet possibility of loss, her desire grows stronger than you could ever imagine. 8. How to truly ignore her. Most men think ignoring a woman means giving her the silent treatment, refusing to answer calls, or playing some childish game of who texts first. But that's not real strength. That's just immaturity dressed up as control. True ignoring isn't about punishing her. It's about being so consumed with your mission, so focused on your path, that her presence or her absence does not shake your direction. Think about it. A man who is truly grounded doesn't need to prove he's busy by ignoring her texts on purpose. He's genuinely busy building his body, sharpening his mind, expanding his work, living his purpose. He doesn't have to fake scarcity. His life is already full, and that fullness speaks louder than any forced silence ever could. The Stoics taught us this freedom lies in control over yourself, not in control over others. When you ignore her in the Stoic sense, it doesn't mean you stop caring or that you turn cold. It means you detach your emotions from her behavior. If she's distant, your mission doesn't beaches. If she's testing you, your confidence doesn't waver. If she's showering you with attention, you don't abandon your focus just to soak it in. Your compass always points toward your purpose. Women are naturally drawn to men whose worlds do not orbit around them. When she senses that you are centered in yourself, when she feels that her moods cannot sway your course, she begins to respect you, and respect is the foundation of attraction. She doesn't chase because you're ignoring her out of spite. She chases because she feels your gravity. She recognizes you as rare a man, not enslaved by her approval. Now here's the hard truth most men avoid. If you're ignoring her just to get a reaction, you've already lost. You're still controlled by her attention. You're simply using absence instead of presence to seek validation. That's not detachment. That's manipulation. And she will feel the difference. The kind of ignoring that creates attraction isn't even about her. It's about you. It's about living in such a way that your life is bigger than her opinion of you. You ignore the games not because you're cruel, but because they're irrelevant compared to your vision. You ignore the need to over-explain yourself, not because you don't care, but because your peace matters more than winning an argument. You ignore the urge to chase because you know what's truly yours cannot be taken away, and what leaves you was never meant for you in the first place. And here's the beauty of this truth. When you stop orbiting her, she starts orbiting you. When she realizes you don't need her attention to feel whole, she begins to question. Why doesn't he need me? What makes him so steady? Where does his strength come from? That curiosity turns into respect. That respect turns into desire. And that desire grows not from what you give, but from what you withhold, your emotional dependence. So how do you truly ignore her? You stop making her the center of your story. You live fully. You invest in your health, your friendships, your craft. You create a life that is meaningful with or without her. And if she chooses to be part of it, she must earn her place because you were already moving before she showed up, and you will keep moving if she leaves. That is the essence of masculine strength, to remain unshaken. Not to withdraw in bitterness, not to fake indifference, but to live with such clarity of purpose that her attention becomes a gift, not oxygen. That is how you ignore her, not to diminish her, but to protect yourself. Not to manipulate, but to master. And in that mastery, you become unforgettable. 9. Master the energy shift. There's a hidden truth most men never realize in every interaction with a woman. Energy is being exchanged. It's not just about words, texts, or gestures. It's about who sets the rhythm, who frames the interaction, who controls the emotional climate. If you don't lead that energy, you will always find yourself reacting to hers. And when you orbit her moods instead of setting the pace, you've already surrendered your power. Think about how many times you've been pulled into her storms. She's distant, you rush to reassure. She's irritated, you scramble to fix it. She pulls away, you chase harder. Every time you're dancing to her rhythm, and she feels it. And here's the uncomfortable reality. The more you follow her emotional lead, the less she respects you. Not because she's cruel, but because she instinctively trusts the man who sets the pace, not the one who bends to it. The Stoics would call this mastery over the self. Energy cannot be destroyed, but it can be directed. A man who masters the energy shift knows when to speak and when to remain silent. He knows when to lean in and when to lean back. Most importantly, he understands that his internal frame, the calm certainty he carries, must never be shaken by the fluctuations of another. When you control the energy, you control the rhythm of the dance. You don't allow arguments to escalate because you remain steady. You don't give in to tests because you see them for what they are, opportunities to prove your grounding. You don't explain yourself endlessly because your actions and presence already communicate your truth. Instead of being pulled, you pull her into your frame. And here's what happens. She begins to lean in to adjust, to match your calm. Because energy always seeks the stronger vessel. This is why unpredictable men are so magnetic. Not because they play games, but because their moods aren't dependent on hers. He's not shaken if she withdraws. Not elated only when she validates. His energy is consistent, and consistency is rare. Women crave that kind of solidity because it makes them feel safe. Mastering the energy shift means you stop reacting and start deciding. You decide when to text, when to meet, when to engage, not based on fear of losing her, but based on alignment with your own mission and peace. That's the difference between a man who chases approval and a man who leads with presence. The chaser is always in response mode. The leader sets the rhythm. And here's the paradox: when you stop trying to control her reactions and focus only on your energy, she begins to respond more. She texts first. She tries harder. She invests not because you manipulated her, but because she feels your strength. Women are biologically wired to test, to push, to pull away, just to see if the man can hold steady. When you pass that test, when you remain calm and unshaken, her respect deepens, and with it, her attachment. So how do you practice this? Start by becoming conscious of your emotional triggers. Notice when you want to overreact, overtext, over-explain. Pause instead. Breathe. Ask yourself, am I leading this moment, or am I reacting to hers? Then redirect your energy back to your purpose. Build your body. Master your craft. Live your mission. That way, your rhythm comes from within, not from her approval. The man who masters energy doesn't chase storms. He stands like a mountain while storms pass around him. He becomes the steady rhythm. She cannot ignore the gravity she cannot resist. Because when you set the pace, she follows. Not out of weakness, but out of respect for your strength. That, my friends, is the essence of masculine presence. To master the energy shift is not to control her, but to control yourself so completely that her only choice is to lean into your frame. And once you live that truth, you'll never chase again, because she will always feel the pull to chase you. 10. Standards. Define respect. There's a truth most men avoid because it's uncomfortable. Women don't fall in love with words, with gifts, or even with your affection. They fall in love with your standards. Standards are not rules you shout out loud. They are quiet lines in the sand boundaries that say, "This is who I am. This is what I will and will not accept." And here's the paradox: while men often think lowering their standards will win love, the opposite is true. Every time you compromise your core values for temporary pleasure, you lose a piece of your dignity. And once dignity is gone, respect follows. And without respect, desire cannot survive. Think about it. A man who bends at every push, who apologizes for things he never did, who compromises his mission to keep her happy. he doesn't earn admiration. At best, he earns convenience. She might stay around, but not because she looks up to him. She stays because he's safe, predictable, and easy to control. But safe and predictable are not magnetic. They're forgettable. Now picture the opposite. A man who can love deeply, yet refuses to lose himself in the process. A man who listens with patience but will not allow disrespect. A man who shows warmth but will calmly withdraw when his values are crossed. That man becomes unforgettable because his standards create gravity. She knows he won't tolerate mediocrity in himself or in her, and that whether she admits it or not makes her crave his approval more. This is why the Stoics taught us that virtue is the highest form of power. Your standards are an expression of your virtue. They show that you honor yourself before you seek to be honored by anyone else. Epictetus once said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." What did he mean? That the world will resist your standards. People will mock you for being too strict, too disciplined. But a man without standards is like a ship without a compass, drifting lost at the mercy of every wave. In relationships, your standards protect you from that drift. They prevent you from begging for love, from tolerating games, from being manipulated by moods. When she tests you, and she will, your standards are what hold the line. Not anger, not threats, but calm certainty. If she pulls away to provoke you, you don't chase. If she speaks in disrespect, you don't argue, you remove access. If she tries to lure you off your mission, you stay the course. And in doing so, you show her that her emotions are not more important than your dignity. And here's the beauty. Real women of substance respect this more than anything. They may resist it at first, they may push against it, but deep down they crave it. Because only in the presence of a man with standards can they feel safe enough to rest. Without that, they feel they must lead, and when they lead, attraction fades. Now, I need to make something clear. Standards are not arrogance. They are not about control or dominance. They are about self-respect. They are about knowing that your time, your energy, and your love are sacred. And sacred things are not given away cheaply. Standards say, if you want access to me, you must bring respect, peace, and effort to the table. When you live this way, something changes in your energy. You no longer fear rejection because rejection simply reveals who could not meet your standard. You no longer overgive because you understand that value flows both ways. You no longer waste time convincing anyone to see your worth because your standards already prove it. And that, my friend, is when you become truly powerful. Not because you control women, but because you control yourself. Not because you manipulate, but because you no longer compromise what makes you whole. A man with standards can walk away without anger. He can stay without desperation. He can love without losing himself. At the end of the day, fleeting emotions come and go. Passion rises and falls. Attraction burns and fades. But respect that endures. Respect is the root of desire, the seed from which devotion grows. And respect is born only from was or from standards. So ask yourself, what are the standards you live by? Do you bend the moment you fear losing her? Do you sacrifice your values to gain approval? Or do you stand firm, calmly, consistently, with the quiet strength of a man who knows that dignity outlives desire? Because here's the truth, any man can make her smile for a season. Few men can make her respect them for a lifetime. And the difference is not in charm or money or looks. The difference is in standards. Be the man who stands tall. Be the man whose boundaries are firm but fair. Be the man whose standards remind her and the world that respect is not negotiable. Because when you live by that code, you don't just attract love. You attract devotion. And devotion is far stronger than desire. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to pause and reflect on what we've uncovered across these 10 lessons. Each truth was not just about women, not just about relationships, but about you. Your power, your purpose, your standards. We spoke about detachment not as coldness, but as mastery over your emotions. We uncovered the value of attention, that rarest of currencies, and why giving it away freely leaves you drained while guarding it makes you magnetic. We reminded ourselves that you are the prize, not her, and that the weight of your life must rest on your mission, not on her moods. We explored why neediness repels, how her tests are not cruelty, but checks for your strength, and why purpose must always stand higher than pleasure. We talked about the mystery of scarcity, the quiet strength of ignoring her without resentment, the wisdom of mastering the energy shift, and the unshakable truth that standards define respect. Together, these principles form not just a strategy, but a philosophy, a way of living where your dignity leads the way. And here's the reality. Men who live by these codes are rare. Most will bend. Most will chase. Most will crumble at the first sign of pressure. But not you. Not anymore. You've been given clarity, and with clarity comes responsibility. The responsibility to live differently, to walk with strength, to embody the kind of presence that no one can ignore. So as you step forward from here, carry this truth in your bones. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. You need only to live it. You don't need to beg for love. You need to embody strength, purpose, and standards so deeply that love, respect, and devotion naturally follow. If this message spoke to you, if it stirred something inside, then don't let it end here. Subscribe to this channel so you don't walk this path alone. Like this video if it helped you rise above old patterns. Share it with a brother who needs to hear it, who's still trapped in lies that weaken him. And leave a comment below. Let me know which truth hit you the hardest. Because together we're building more than a channel. We're building a community of men who choose to live by strength, by clarity, by virtue. This is not the end. It's just the beginning. The next video will take you deeper into the kind of wisdom that transforms not just relationships, but your entire life. Stay the course, hold the frame, and remember, a man who masters himself is a man no one can control.